Welcome to the Unbreakable Mind and Body podcast. I am your host, Tiana Gonzalez, a multi-passionate creative, storyteller, and entrepreneur with a fierce love for movement. This is our space for powerful stories and actionable strategies to help you build mental resilience and elevate your self-care practice. Together, we will unlock the tools that you need to create an unbreakable mind and body. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Tiana. We need to talk about something because I'm seeing a pattern in the gym and I want to address it. Now, I have some notes down in front of me, and today I'm going to try recording the show with my mic in my hand. I know that I talk a lot with my hands, and I also realized that the last episode I was a little close to the camera. Now, if you're new here, this is my second video podcast episode. So we're working out the kinks and I'm learning as I go. So bear with me. So what's this phenomenon that I am seeing over and over and over again? I'm talking about over the last 30 plus years that I have been hitting the weight room floor consistently, repeatedly, over and over again. And it's that there are women who will come into the gym 4, 5, 6 days a week. They'll do a little of this, they do a little of that, they take a class, they're there for a while, they hop on a treadmill, they take a spin class or a cycle class, and years and years and years later, they look in the mirror, their body looks the same. They do not see any tangible physical manifestations of changes in their physique. They don't necessarily feel stronger, and they don't see muscle anywhere on their body. Now, I almost said muscle tone. If you're one of my long-term followers, you know that I don't really love the word tone, but for the purposes of this conversation, I understand what people mean when they say tone. Tone is not really a thing, but I'm also not in the interest of making people feel stupid if they use that word. But what you mean by saying tone is having definition. And in order to have definition, you need to have muscle to define. So in order to have muscle to define, you need to build muscle. And if you're working out in the way that I just explained, where you're doing a little of this and a little bit of that, and you're going here and there, and you're doing whatever the fuck you want with no structure, no organization, and no plan, are you building muscle? Maybe, maybe not. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And if what I just described sounds like you or sounds familiar, don't let your feelings be hurt, because we can change this and we can change it today. And that is the best part of this. And I also want you to realize that all of your effort has not been wasted. There is value there. Okay. But first, what we need to do is figure out what's the difference between working out and strength training. And we're going to define what those two things are. And then I'm going to explain to you what the challenge is and why you are probably not seeing the results that you want. It's not because of a lack of consistency. It's not because you're not disciplined. It's not because you're not a gym person. You very well may be someone who is going consistently, religiously, loving the gym, but it's about what you're doing when you're in those walls that makes all the difference. Before we dive into what the answer is, let's talk about what working out is. Working out is what you do to get movement, to break a sweat, to raise your heart rate, to feel good. It might be something you do with a run club or with your kids on the weekends. Maybe you work out together, you do something outdoors. It's something you could do with your friends. It's a class that you love. That's working out. It's definitely positive, and it's movement, and it's a stress reliever. And there are so many benefits to it. But it's not necessarily following a structured plan. Working out is something that you do and check the box and move on with your life. If you're somebody who does a lot of cardio, if you're somebody who takes classes, if you're somebody who mixes it up all the time, then your level of commitment may ebb and flow, and it may not be geared towards specifically what you want. A lot of women, myself included, were raised in the generation of Snackwell cookies, of low calorie, low fat, low sugar, low taste, counting calories, cardio was everything generation. I'm Generation X. And the marketing, the word out on the street, if you will, was to go running, to sweat a lot. That if you wanted to have the body of your dreams, you needed to watch your calories and sweat a ton. And I know that that's not true. Why? Because I've done it. So I would say for probably the first 5 to 10 years of my training, history, experience, yeah, I was working out in the weight room, but I was also doing a ton of cardio. And I also sat in the sauna, and I also would go out on the hot summer days and go for a run because I thought that sweating a lot, burning a ton of calories was the answer. I was mistaken because I would lose a ton of weight and I still didn't love what I saw in the mirror. I still wasn't feeling confident. I still didn't like my shape, and I still did not have the muscle defined in all of the places that I wanted to, even though I was lifting weights. I just wasn't doing it properly. I just wasn't doing it in a way that it would lend itself and steer me in that direction. So I was doing things that made me feel productive. But what was really happening was I was in the gerbil wheel, moving my feet, but going nowhere. And I'm sure that that sounds familiar to many of you. One thing that I will say that was positive that came out of that time for me was I cultivated the habit. I developed my inner discipline. I built my life around becoming a gym goer, becoming a gym person. And I will say on a side note that that is one of the biggest challenges for most people when they first start on their health and fitness journey or when they're revisiting that weight loss goal. They know they need to do certain things. But cultivating that habit and realizing that, yeah, you're going to start going to the gym. And guess what? You're going to become a gym person for the rest of your life. See, nobody told you that. And that's one of the secrets. You have to become a gym person. You don't have to become a gym person like me. You don't have to love it, but you have to become a gym person if you want to make change and then sustain it long term. But they don't tell you that. It's not even in the fine print of the contract for the gym that you sign up for. No one tells you that unless you meet an honest trainer out on the floor or you have somebody like me that you can listen to who's going to say like, hey, this is the deal. And it's not necessarily bad, but it's a lifestyle change. And you have to be willing to make that change in order to see the progress that you want. But this is what happens when you realize I did the workout and I did the workout for weeks. I did the workout for years. I did the workout and I'm not seeing changes. I'm not seeing the changes that I want. I'm not seeing my body move in the right direction. Yeah, I lost a little bit of weight, but my shape's the same. I lost a little bit of weight, but I'm not confident to wear that bathing suit. Not yet. I lost some weight, but I still feel insecure at the pool. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to walk around without my cover up on. Ooh. And that's tough, especially when you've been putting in the work. Now, let's talk about what strength training actually is. Strength training is a very specific way of lifting weights that will lead you to one, get stronger, and two, build muscle. Now, let's not go too far off into this next sidebar, but it is important to note that you will see athletes that compete in the Olympics or on television, and they're in a sport. So the strength that they have for their sport is very specific. They're not doing much to look a certain way. Everything for their training revolves around the end goal of getting the best score in their event, including in Olympic weightlifting. So when you have a high level athlete who can clean and jerk a heavy weight, or they can snatch a heavy weight, they're doing one rep. They may not look to you like a bodybuilder. They probably won't, because they don't train like a bodybuilder. They train very specifically to be able to do a few events and to excel at that. And their training is not meant to make their bodies look a certain way. So we need to realize that bodybuilders by title are the people who are training to build their physique to look a certain way. They care a little bit less about the numbers as far as the weights that they're lifting. And weightlifters are very much focused on the numbers and on the weight on the barbell, very specifically down to the half pound or the quarter pound, because they're competing against each other on one rep of these movements. So the focus is on the numbers and far less on what their bodies look like. It's more about what their bodies do. Now, let's reel it back in, because we could actually talk about that for a whole episode on its own. But the point of this conversation is to really focus on strength training to get stronger, like general preparedness, as well as to build muscle. Now, what's really cool about building muscle is you get to decide what body parts you want to train, how frequently, and the volume. So I'll give you an example. This is me a few years into my weight training journey. And this was taken at the beach, probably before my either junior or senior year of college. I'm not really sure what year it was. But I remember getting these photos developed, and I remember being extremely disappointed because I had put in so much effort in the weight room and doing cardio, like I mentioned earlier. And I felt like my body did not look like it was a model of the amount of work I was putting in. Years later, after putting tons of focus on building up my upper body so that I could compete, I did a few shows and then I took a break. And during that break, that was the years later, I focused on upper body. I focused on building my shoulders, my back, my chest, my arms, building out width to create the illusion of a very tiny waist. Now, what's funny is when I went back to the stage to compete in bodybuilding, a lot of people would say, "Oh my God, your waist is so tiny. What is it, like a 22 or a 24?" No, it actually wasn't, but it was more like a 26 or a 28. But I created this illusion from building muscle in the gym. And so I was able to do well my second run in bodybuilding shows. In fact, I got my pro card in 2010. And what's funny is I had spent so much time focused on my upper body. I actually neglected my legs because I used to think, oh, my legs are so muscular. I don't need to work them out as much. You do. Muscle is a tissue. It is a living organism. You need to work it to keep it alive, to keep it going. If you don't train your muscles, they will atrophy. And guess where my muscles were atrophied? In my glutes. Because my whole life I had been bottom heavy. I was really curvy. I had that hourglass shape. And I didn't feel like I needed to train my glutes because I had a big butt. I used to get made fun of actually as a kid. So now here I am years later. And when I dieted down for competitions, my butt was flat. So I had to go back to the drawing board and learn how to train my glutes again. And it turned out I had pretty weak glutes because of years of neglect. But the moral of the story is you can decide where you want to sculpt and add muscle to your frame. You can create the shape that you want by training it deliberately and intentionally. You can choose how to develop your body, which I think is amazing. You can get stronger in the process and you can build the shape that you want. And you can do that by following a strength training protocol. Strength training is truly lifting weights on the weight room floor. You're focused on one set at a time. You're in the zone. You're concentrated on your breath. And the goal is to lift as heavy as possible safely and to hit the desired rep range. So what's the desired rep range? Well, that is whoever's writing your program for you or your plan. If I tell you to do incline dumbbell presses, 4 sets, 8 to 10 reps, I want you to do it with a weight that is heavy enough that 8 reps feels really hard, 9 is almost impossible, and 10 you can barely do. That's the desired stimulus. If you get to the 10th rep very easily, especially if it's in the first set, I want you to go up a little bit. You probably will go up and stay there. And then again, when you rest and then get back into your working set, number 2, again, you're going to be focused on one thing at a time, exhaling at the proper time, making sure your body is in alignment, keeping your midsection engaged, and getting to that desired rep range again. You see, strength training is a lot slower. It is intentional. And you're not doing jumping jacks in between each set. You're not jumping up and down on a box in between each set. You can superset. And a superset would be something like if you were to do biceps and triceps because they're opposing muscles. So you could do 1 set of biceps, 1 set of triceps, and then you're going to rest, and then you're going to go back to the biceps. But when it's your bigger muscle groups, or I'm sorry, when it's your compound lifts, you want to do 1 set and take a full and complete rest. This is another area where it's different from like a group class, or it's different from a small group training session, like if you were to do a CrossFit class or a High Rocks group workout, because they're going from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. Strength training is 1, maybe 2 things at a time, resting in between and getting back to it. And the difference here is you're thinking about the whole week. It's a cohesive program. So what you do on Thursday and Friday is very much impacted by what you did Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You see, it's a whole plan. And you look at the week, you look at what you want to focus on. So for me, let's say when I was very focused on building my upper body, I was doing my shoulders twice a week and I was training my back and chest and sometimes hitting legs. Shameful for me to say that, but it is the truth. And I was looking at the whole week and thinking about my energy reserves, thinking about what I had going on in my life on any given day, like if I was coming home late from work or if I had to skip a workout because I had a late meeting or something like that. And then looking at the rest of the week and making sure that I was hitting the proper amount of volume to stimulate the growth in the areas where I wanted it the most. So when I'm generally writing a strength training program for someone, we consider first the number of days per week that they can get to the gym to lift weights. Number of days that they can get to the gym to lift weights. I said that twice because I meant it and because we're only talking about lifting weights. So if that's 3 days, 4 days, maybe 5 days, From there, you can then determine what else you can do. So if you are going to the gym 3 days a week, you're going to have 3 pretty long strength training workouts. And then maybe you'll go for a run on another day, or you'll do a hike, or you'll ride your bike, or you'll take a yoga class. But the 3 primary days of your workout routine are lifting. If you're hitting 4 days, you can spread the body parts out a little bit more, and you can also, once again, do your yoga, your cycling, your hiking, maybe your swimming. You can still have fun, but the foundation of what you're doing is lifting weights slowly, intentionally, splitting up your body into groups to make sure that you're not overtraining one area and undertraining another area, giving yourself ample rest in between sets, and taking at least 1 full rest day, if not 2, throughout your 7-day week. The myth is that resting in between sets is a waste of time. That again is programming targeted right at the midlife woman, me, 47 years old, who wants to burn fat, who wants to burn that belly fat. They want to optimize workout. That is not optimized. An optimized workout is specifically optimized for you. If you follow someone else's optimized workout, that might not be the right thing for you. So again, it's important to make sure you step back, you slow down, you examine what you're doing, and you do a full inventory and really look at where are you actually doing some strength training. Because if you're the woman I talked about in the beginning of this episode who's doing a little bit of this, doing a little bit of that, and mixing it up, when are you lifting weights? When are you lifting weights properly to stimulate muscle growth? That is the question. Now, the cohesiveness, that's the important part. If you want to change your body, if you want to build muscle, if you want to have shapely arms in a tank top or legs that people would die for in a miniskirt, that's going to require you to train a very specific way. And it's not going to happen if you wing it. It's not going to happen if you just follow someone else's workout. It's not going to happen if you pull up the workouts you have saved in that folder in Instagram of like workouts you want to do, and you start trying to do it while you're in the middle of the gym floor, people all around you, you're hogging up a bench or a machine. You have no idea what you're doing, but someone told you this was a good workout. Don't be that person. And again, I'm not poo-pooing on anyone if that is you, if that's your lived experience. You just need to change what you're doing. So when you're following a strength training routine, the cool thing about it too is that it's repeatable. You're not changing the workout every single week. For a solid block of time, easily 4 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks, you are doing the same workout. I know that could sound boring to some people, but it is effective. Why? Because you are tracking your progress. And if you change something, then you don't know what else you're changing down the line. And once you get really good at understanding that you're starting the workout with a compound lift, primarily with a barbell, with a kettlebell, or with dumbbells, but it's still a compound lift. And then you're moving through your program down from the bigger muscle groups into the smaller muscle groups, mixing in some core, making sure you're taking rest. And when you do that enough times, you start to understand the flow, you start to understand the stimulus, you start to understand your body and how you feel throughout the process. And that really is the most important part. But the other thing is that you build trust within yourself, because if something is predictable, then you know what to expect. And if you know what to expect, then you have a standard, you have a baseline that you've established, and then you can push it. You can test the boundary. You can increase the weight. You can push yourself. You can add intensity. It would be reckless of me to tell you to just start going lifting heavy weight without knowing anything about you. What do you know about a strength training program? Have you ever done one before? If I told you to do this exercise, that exercise, and this exercise, would you be able to just make your way through the gym floor, hit 4 working sets at a challenging weight with great form and feel good about it and move on with your life? Maybe. But if that sounds completely foreign to you, then you need to take a step back. You need to slow down and you need to examine what you're currently doing and where you can make room for this. Now, the other part of this conversation that's really important is people go to the gym for socializing. People go to the gym for connection. People go to the gym to release steam. So fun is also an important part of your routine. And if you're not having fun, that's problematic. So when you're following a strength training routine and it's really outside of your norm and you don't love it, it is important to make sure you do something that you love. So maybe in between those workout days, you take that class you love. You do something with your friends. That's when you get your cardio in. That's when you have your dopamine hits. That's when you enjoy yourself. Eventually, you will begin to enjoy the strength training workouts. Why? Because you're going to feel stronger and you're going to love the way your butt looks in those jeans. And you're going to love how that dress fits you. It's a slow, steady grind. It's not a sudden thing. It's an investment. Now, before we wrap up this episode, I'm going to give you some takeaways, as I always do. This week, before your next workout session, I want you to ask yourself, what is this workout building? You might not know the answer. Or maybe you do. It's not building anything, but it's fun. I like it. Okay. And I just want you to observe that. Next, I want you to go out onto the weight room floor and I want you to pick a lift and I want you to do 4 working sets and notice how you feel while you're doing that. It's different because you're not working against a clock. You're not doing something for time. You're not trying to beat your friend or your neighbor in the studio. This is you against you. And if you've never done it before, it's you and a clean slate. So there's only one way to go from there, and that's up. Now, the last thing, and this is important. If you've been doing this alone for years and you feel like you've hit your peak, you feel like you've plateaued, you feel like you're already at the top, I challenge you. I want you to either get a trainer for a session or 2 or work out with a friend, preferably someone stronger than you. And I want you to push those boundaries. So you'll have a spot, you'll have another set of eyes, you'll have somebody to tell you if you're doing it correctly, you'll have a buddy to push you and support you and to hold you accountable. And that's where you'll start to notice where there's some room for growth, some room for change. Because even I thought at one point in time that I had reached my peak, that I had nowhere left to go because I had done everything. I competed in CrossFit. I competed in powerlifting. I competed in martial arts. I used to dance. Like, I'm good. There's nothing I don't like. That is not true. There is a lot of stuff I don't like. I thought there was nothing I didn't like because I was doing my own program. So guess what? What was I doing? I was cherry picking. I was only doing the things I liked and none of the things I hated until I hired a trainer. And we've been working together for 6 years, 6+ years through a virtual relationship. Yep. I have over 30 years of experience and I still have somebody else writing my program for me. You want to know why? Because I don't want to think about it. Because I want somebody else to challenge me. Because I want someone to hold me accountable. It is really nice to have someone else that I can say, hey, I was wondering, blah, 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 blah. And he'll get back to me. If you aren't being stretched or challenged in some sort of way, you're not growing. So again, working out and strength training are not the same thing. And if you're somebody who's doing a lot more working out, that's okay. But if you want to change how you feel in your clothes, you want to change the way you look, and you want to make sure that you are strong as you get into your senior years, you need to be doing some strength training. You will thank me later. As always, I thank you for your time and attention each and every week. And I appreciate you being patient with me as I work through some of the kinks with the video podcasting, which is new to me, and hopefully something that I can continue doing ongoing. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you on the next one.